You're listening to 101 with Tommie Zam. On the 57th episode, we sit down with Jake Huffman talking about music and life. Let's do this. Hey, Jake, how you doing today?
Yo, doing good, Tommy. Thanks for having me, man.
No problem, man. Thanks for coming on 101 podcast, man. This is I use this as a way to just have fun with it, and find some interesting people, musicians and skaters and stuff to come on and just chit chat for a good hour.
Yeah, dude, those are the best type of people to talk to.
Right.
And all my friends fit that category, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You skateboard yourself?
So I used to longboard a little bit, but a bunch of my friends are like, I love skating. I'm not good at it. I had to longboard because I could never do an ollie.
Oh no, what?
I know. I probably could if I put my mind to it, but then I got into like mountain biking stuff. But some of my closest friends, they own and they run Original Skateboards, which is a longboarding company from Portland, Oregon, and I've done a couple different videos with them, and they're just some of my favorite people. And then I got actually one of my really good friends in Connecticut. He's in a band called Skating, and he's like the sick skateboarder here. Yeah, but it's it's the best, man.
Well, shit. Well, give him my information. Let's chit chat with him.
Yeah, dude, you'd have a great conversation with him. Not to immediately start a podcast with me and tell you should talk to somebody else.
I know. Hey, don't talk to me, man.
No, you gotta talk.
Fuck me, man. I'm joking, dude. Well, I don't use. One of the things I don't like using cameras because I'm always in the front of a camera from my own shows that I do called a live show, TSM live show. So I'm always in front of a camera. So I figure, with this one, I don't even want to use a camera. That way, if you want to smoke a bowl or drink a beer, or if you sit there for a minute and you're catching flies, someone might be like, oh, dude, that dude's catching flies or something, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's good. After like a long day too, I'm pretty friggin' gross. Oh, yeah. Nobody wants to see this right now.
Well, what'd you do today?
So, well, I was working in the studio in the morning. So I'm going in the next 2 weeks. I'm going back in the studio to record a new EP. So like another 4 songs, and I mean this is kind of nerdy, but so a lot of what I'm doing is right now is building these like ambient transitions and just different like pads, but it's all based on like vocoder stuff. So I'm just like saying weird things into a microphone and then resampling my vocal and then just like kind of just getting high and like trying to make it something else and just kind of like creating like a little bit of a sound bank so that when I go to the studio, we just have everything there that we can just throw at the wall and see what happens.
So hold on. So you're saying like so you're basically changing your voice while you're singing? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So I use this program. It's the makers of Autotune, Antares. They make this program called the Harmonizer Engine, and it's pretty similar to like what like Imogen Heap or like Bon Iver uses live. So like it just can it resamples your voice live. So like I could be like speaking right now, but if I played a chord on the keyboard, it would sample what I'm saying live, and in real time it would resample all the layers of my vocals. And then you can go in further, and each stem of the vocal that you're sampling, you can change. You can make it sound like more like a cartoon, or like like some like crazy monster or something, or make it sound more like like a girl or something like that. So you can do gnarly things with it.
What? That's pretty badass, dude.
Yeah, actually, I decided I was going to make kind of like a weekly like content series thing of just covering some of my favorite songs, but in that vocoder thing. So, if anyone's interested in checking that out, I do kind of just put stuff on my Instagram that I'm actively doing. So,
dude, that's pretty
some of that's there. Yeah.
So basically that's what like kind of like what White Zombie did. Well, he might have done something different. I know he changed his voice and does some weird stuff like back in the day, like White Zombie and all those guys,
Yeah. I think everybody has like, it's definitely really similar to that. And I think this is like, it seems like everybody's like kind of like doing the same thing, but a totally different way. And it's kind of cool how like a bunch of different artists can get to like they want a similar thing, but you can go about it so many different ways. It's such a creative world, and it's kind of the Wild West with plugins right now because there's so many out there. And they all do like the same thing, but a little bit different. So everybody could be using the same thing or like the same type of thing, but it's all just a little bit. It can make you stay unique even while you're staying in the modern production space.
Dude, that's pretty fucking badass, dude. Technology, man.
It's nuts, man. You know, honestly, like I've over the past, like I didn't know jack shit about any production stuff like before the pandemic, really. And I was one of those people that like during the pandemic, I was like, I can't sit still and I can't like be alone or anything. Like I'm just not that type of dude. Like I just go crazy in my head. I'm like a rat in the maze. I just got to like run around. But so during the pandemic, I went back to school. I went to Berkeley online and got a certificate in music production.
Oh, sick.
And ever since then, I found like a cool community of people. And I've been like, you know, just essentially I'm balls deep in production stuff now. It's like all I think about, you know.
You're like this, like, fuck, man, you know, I'm sleeping, you're sleeping, and your mind's like going crazy. Like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. Is that how it's like?
Literally. And like someone will say something and it'll like trigger something in my head. I'll have to be like, yeah, I'll be right back. I gotta go to the studio really quick. I'll be right back. But I got to do something really quick.
So basically, let's say if you're out on a date with a chick and you're like you heard some tune or something, some music over some restaurant, and you're like, oh wait, hold on, babe, I gotta go do something real quick, you know. And then
I never come back.
You never come back. You're sitting there at the dinner like, what the fuck, man?
I stood up for a vocorder.
Never again. I'm hooking up with that vocoder again.
Yeah, man.
That's funny, dude. And you know, so you grew up in Connecticut. What was it like growing up in Connecticut?
You know, I think like everybody in my hometown, the idea was like to get out. You know, like everybody's like, oh man, I'm never gonna stay in this friggin' town. But Connecticut's like the location I'm at in Hartford. If you're a musician, it really works out because you're kind of 2 hours from Boston. You're 2 hours from New York. You could like head up to Maine. You could go to Vermont. You got like all the seasons. So you know, New England people, you know, they're kind of cut from a little different cloth. Like everybody's kind of an asshole, like to your face, which is kind of endearing in a way if you live up here.
Well, I know how those New England people are.
Yeah, like, you know, like they're just like kind of harder and like because it snows and it's super shitty. Like no one likes it, but like some people pretend to like it, or some people like to do things in the snow, but no one likes when it snows.
Yeah.
You know, so everybody just gets like this hard exterior. You know, you got like the dads with like the beanies that are like way up on their head because they just shovel the snow for like 2 hours.
And they're wearing the Patriots, New England Patriots logo on it too.
Yeah, like we got like they just lumped us all together. Like you get one football team for all these states. You just get New England. Yeah, you get one. You get small states.
That's funny, dude. Yeah, I deal with a lot of New England people over here in San Diego. Yeah. Trust me.
Yeah, I feel like is it like Arizona where it's like a lot of like it's like a lot of people from the East Coast that live out there. Are there a lot of natives out there?
No, there's a lot of San Diego. There's a lot of San Diegan natives out here. There's a lot, but also too, there's so many like East Coast people out here. It's ridiculous. And I want to say where I live, I see or I hear the accents. So the most accent I hear are people from Boston.
Oh yeah, dude, and they stick out like a sore thumb.
They're Boston, dude. They're so bad. I mean, no offense to anybody from Boston that I know, but they're so bad. They're the ones here are the ones that like you don't like in high school. They're the football jocks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're all playing football. They know all the scores of everything in every team and all the drama in every team.
Dude, they all live here.
That's where they end up.
There's a bar that's a Patriots bar, and it's nothing but New England, Boston people, and it's just crazy, dude. I'm just like, dude, no, please. But they're cool. There's some cool ones.
I don't even know where that accent came from either. It's like, you know, you go to like all these different places in New England, and then you go to Boston, you're like, what the fuck happened to your voice here? Like, where did this come from?
I think it's like a mixture of like New York and Philly mixed together, you know?
Yeah, it literally is like it's like split down the middle.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
So we came off the same boat. Like, wasn't it all the Mayflower? Like, what happened to the people who went there?
Yeah, they don't sound English, do they?
No, I mean maybe maybe that's like old English. They just kept it.
Like I said, they probably got inbred a New Yorker, and the Philly got hooked up, and then they moved to Boston and
And
had
they
like,
moved to Boston.
and they had like 50 kids.
Yeah, and then that's all Boston.
And that's how all
Everybody's
Boston
descendant of the
accents
same
came,
50.
They're all incense,
Oh man, I lost so many Boston fans after doing this.
Uh-oh. I'll probably hate it on. Well, anyways. So growing up in Connecticut, so was it really like a lot of fun? Like I've never been there before, so try to tell me a little bit more about it. What's it like?
I mean, if you grew up in Connecticut, I mean, what I did was I just spent so much time in the woods. So we have really great Connecticut has really great programs for music, and because it's just a small state, you can just kind of hop across the state very quickly. So you can hit a lot of colleges, had a lot of community programs, and from a really young age, I knew I was going to be like a drummer. So
Mhm.
my parents just kind of drove me all over the state to do all these different percussion programs and things. So my experience in Connecticut was kind of sick because I just did music, and then when I wasn't doing music, I was hiking and I was in the woods.
Oh,
Um,
sick.
which was, so my experience here was really good. It's definitely like small town vibes, but it's mixed between like, because everything's so close. So you have like, you have Hartford, which is like city-ish,
Hmm.
and then it's just like almost immediately suburbs. So you kind of get a little bit of like the both best of both worlds, where you can like go in, you can like, you can go to the bar, you can like hang out in the city, but then you're just driving home.
Hmm.
um, so but Connecticut gets like a lot of hate from people who like live here. I mean, it's so expensive to live here. I mean, that's the worst part. Like the taxes are just out of hand. And
Really
it's,
expensive. I wouldn't figure Connecticut would be that expensive since it's so like up there, being cold and stuff.
yeah, it's just I don't know how it is, but it's like it used to be the insurance capital of the world. Um, so yeah, the bottom of Connecticut is really just the suburbs of New York City.
Oh, okay.
So
So
you get like,
it's basically people that can't live in the city, they move to Connecticut.
yeah, there's people who have so much money in the city that they get a house in Greenwich, or like Westport, and then up the train line. You go like up the train line, and then kind of up through the coast. You get like right now, I'm in Madison, Connecticut right now because I work down here and teach lessons, and a
Mhm.
lot of the houses around here are empty during the year because they're only summer houses for people who live in the city.
Dude, house parties, man.
I know, right? There's so many empty houses up here. There's
Fuck.
endless possibilities for pool hopping here.
Exactly, dude. That's what I'm talking about. Damn, now everybody's hearing that, and I was like, "Damn, this guy's right." House parties, man.
Yeah, dude, seriously. Everybody's gonna come up and be a series of break-ins of houses.
Oh, you have to break in. You just find the house that has the dopest pool, and you just go there and just party it up.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
So that's crazy. So there's basically all vacation homes up there.
Yeah, like the bottom half. And then you get more toward the northern part of the state, and it's like you get old ass houses. Like the house that I'm living in right now is from late 1600s, early 1700s. Like it's
Damn.
old, man. Like you're talking like, George Washington, Paul Revere probably, walked down the road, that I'm living on. So you get these like old ass houses, old families who've been here forever.
Oh wow, those
Yeah.
are
So
scary. Those are the scary ones, dude.
yeah, man. But it's good. It's good. You become friends with them, and then you get all the benefits of the town, like
Okay.
all the firefighters and shit like that will help you out if you're stuck somewhere.
So is that small town like a town of 200 or what?
The town I live in probably has about like 8,000, I would guess, but that's pretty small when it comes to like
Big
shit
city.
happening. Like you see the same people every day. You go to
Oh,
that coffee shop, everybody's there.
you go to the same bar and everybody's there. Everybody knows
Yeah,
that
the
one
one
bar.
bar on the one road in my town.
Are you serious?
There is only one bar in my town, and it is nice to know the people who are there. You get the benefits of being a townie.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I mean, I have a lot of bars around here, but I only go to one bar and that's it. That's open bar. That's all I go to because everybody knows me and you know,
Yeah,
cheap drinks and it's a lot of fun.
that's your people.
Yeah, yeah. But I have like 50 other bars around me, but I don't go to them. I might once in a while, but then I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm going back to open bar.
yeah, dude. That shows your level of commitment. Friggin', that's it's admirable to only go to one bar. you know?
That's crazy to think that, man. Damn, you made me think about that.
Yeah, man. I think you're a really committed guy.
Well, don't tell the ladies that, all right? Keep
Yeah,
that
no,
between
no,
us.
no. Well, you taking the ladies not to open bar,
Exactly, dude. You don't take it to the open bar. We
That's a
won't
big
go that
step.
we won't go that far, but
Yeah.
So, what got you into music? Like like parents, were they musicians? Were they, did they like, you listen to a lot of their old music or what?
Yeah, my parents really didn't. I didn't play any. They didn't play any instruments themselves. They weren't really musical. Like my mom played trombone in high school. That's what she told me. But so the reason I became a musician is I was telling this story today. It's kind of funny, but so I was in the first house I lived in. We had this creepy ass basement, this unfinished basement with these like steep wooden stairs. And I was terrified to go down there. And I was probably terrified because one of the first times I went down there, it's one of my earliest memories. One of the first times I went down there, my friggin' sister was dressed up like the Candyman, like that freaking
Oh
horror
shit!
movie. And it was dark, and I turned on the light, and she jumped out at me, and I was just traumatized from such a young age at this basement.
Oh
Um,
shit! That would
like
traumatize me.
concrete floors, but in the basement there was this one room that was it's like quasi finished, like had a carpet, had like a spinning bike in it that my mom used to use.
Hmm.
And I remember one day I was like upstairs in the family room, and I heard through the floor. I was super young, I mean, like early, like I'm single digits here, so this, but I still remember it. I heard through the floor this like song and this sound that I'd never heard before. I was just like drawn to it. So I remember I opened the basement door, and I went down the stairs, but I was like a little kid. So like I like sat my ass down on the top set and just like slid my ass down and like bopped down, you know what I mean? Like until I got to the bottom, because that's how you do it when you're a little kid. You just kind of skirt down the stairs.
You're like bump, 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 bump,
Yeah,
bump, bump,
bump,
bump,
bump, bump, bump, bump, bump. But I landed at the bottom, and I walked into the we'll call it the workout room, and my mom's on the spinning bike, and there's a Paul Simon song. I now know it's this Paul Simon song called "Boy in the Bubble." And the beginning of this song is this crazy drum intro. It's only drums. It's like this African percussion group, and it just goes like goo goo gago goo goo gago goom. It's like this huge intense thing. And I
Mhm.
went down there and I just shouted at my mom. I was like, "What is that?" And she like kind of stopped, and she was like, "What?" And I was like, "What is this?" She said, "Oh, that's drums." And I was like, "I want to do that." And ever since then, like I think my next birthday, my parents got me a full drum set, and it was just like I heard that sound, and I was like, "That's what I'm gonna do."
Dude, that's rad. I think that's a very good story. Like I hear a lot of stories about everything skateboarding music. I even
Yeah.
had I did a only fangirl once on here, and
Holy shit.
just to see, like, hey, let me try
Yeah.
something ordinary. But what I'm trying to say is that's a really cool ass story, dude. Like
Oh,
that's
thanks,
that's
man.
pretty badass. Like all you're down in the basement where you're scooting your ass down a set of stairs
Yeah. I
because
was
you.
terrified of that basement. It was a big deal that I walked down there.
Oh, I'm still terrified of basements, man. Like,
Yeah.
I got traumatized by, all these horror movies from the 80s.
Yeah, man. Basement bad. That's what we learned.
You don't know what's down there. You're like, fuck. 'Cause I remember my grandparents, when I go visit my grandparents in Pennsylvania, when I grew up in Florida, and I would go up to Pennsylvania and they had basements. And I was like,
Yeah.
I had to go down in the basement. And I was like, damn. And I remember one time I stayed at my aunt's or my aunt's or my cousin's dad's house or whatever, and we had to take a shower down there. I had to take a shower down the basement, dude. That that was freaky, dude. My head was thinking of what's that
Like
movie?
Psycho.
Yes,
Yeah, the
that
Alfred Hitchcock movie.
exactly, dude. I was like, fuck, dude. There's gonna be some rats down here or something gonna get me while I'm taking a
Yeah,
shower.
dude. You're just so vulnerable, like in the shower. You're underground. I mean, it's weird to be underground.
especially if you're not used to it, you know?
Yeah, I guess. And so in Florida, they don't have any basements. I guess because it's so close to the ocean, right?
Yeah, if I dig like 6 feet, I'll have like a big ocean in my backyard.
You just got a big pool, man.
Like, oh, I got an ocean. There's a bull shark right there. How cool. Mom, look what I caught. Nah.
You
But no,
changed
that's
it.
huh?
Oh, you changed the definition of pool shark there.
Right? 100%. But no, that's pretty rad. That's a cool ass story. So you basically heard, you know, African music, some dudes are
Yeah.
playing on the drums, and that's what got you into it. I mean, and then your parents bought you a drum set. Is that you said correct?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we were lucky enough to find this. My first drum teacher, his name is Jonathan Edwards, and he was like this super avant-garde dude. And my first lessons with him were like, he told my parents straight up, he was like, the only way to learn drum set is if you buy a drum set. Like, don't get the pads, don't get all the other shit. Like, just buy the drum set. If you play the drum set right, it's not going to be crazy loud and like, you know, the cliche banging on the drum set in the basement thing. So I was lucky enough, my parents listened to him, and through that, he was doing like a lot of like world percussion music. So it was like a lot of like Ghanaian rhythm, like Africa, like on the Ivory Coast, like that type of rhythm. And then he taught me a bunch of Brazilian stuff. I learned a bunch of hand drums,
Wow.
and then yeah, and so really like the first 4 to 5 years where I was playing drums, I didn't learn a song. Like the first song I ever played, like on drum, like I didn't really realize that like drums you could like play a full song. I thought you would just learn like, you know, percussion pieces or rhythms and you just piece them together. And I was just really working on it like a craft, like someone would, you know, like you'd learn like a skill, like how to weld or something. But it wasn't until like I went to some like I did some like music camps, and we started playing jazz, and I went to like this rock camp, and I think I was probably like 12 or something before I played like my first song on drums with like some other people. And then it clicked. I was like, oh my God, this whole time I've been playing music, like I haven't done like the thing that you're supposed to do. It's just like make music with it. I've just been like working on it. So by the time I did that, I was actually really like, I was pretty sick at drums. Like my, you know, the pocket, my feel was really good. It was a weird way to learn.
Man, that is pretty crazy. And what was like? The only camp I went to was like it was like summer camp, but it was like I don't know, parents drop you off and you're at some camp thing, you know, but then they come back and pick you up. But
Yeah.
band camp, what's that like?
Band camp was fun. I have a really embarrassing band camp story, like a pretty classic band camp story. I was like,
Hold on, is it something like from American Pie?
I wish I was as cool as that. I feel like I was like the narc at band camp. But at first,
No, you were a narc at band camp.
I was a narc at band camp. Dude, I fucked up, man. I was
you could
so
hook
young.
up with that band. You could hook up with that flute girl, man.
I know. I like, dude. I went to band camp, and it was my first year there, and it was at the Litchfield Jazz Fest. It was at the jazz camp.
Oh, dude, there's some hotties in jazz camp, man.
There's tons of hotties. I just was, it was over my head. I didn't even know what hotties were at that point. I was still thinking about, you know.
Wait, how old were you?
I was probably like 12.
Okay, I'll let you slide on that, dude.
But dude, my roommate, we were like, oh, we stayed up really late. You know, we're watching like Adult Swim. We're staying up really late, and all of a sudden, you know, the kid who I'm staying with, and like a couple of the kids from upstairs, they come down. They're like, yo, we're gonna smoke some pot. And I was like, what? We're gonna do some what? And they're like, yeah, dude, like we got some pot. We're gonna smoke it. I was like, oh shit. And I tried to play it cool. And like, you know, and then they're like, you want some? I was like, nah, man, like I'm trying to focus on my music. and then they like go off. And then, you know, the kid comes back in. He's like 12 too. And I was like, yo, what does it feel like? And he's like, oh man, I thought the walls were talking when you said that. And I was like, oh, whoa, dude.
You sure didn't have no lace of acid in it.
Yeah, I was like, or like it was just swag. And I mean, who knows? But I remember I got so scared. I was like, oh shit, I'm so scared. And I like walked outside and I had a cell phone. I had an LG flip phone that my mom gave me for an emergency. And I called her. I was like,
no.
I was like, Mom, you gotta pick me up. These kids are doing drugs. And my mom woke up, and the next day she came up there and picked me up, and I I regretted doing it because, like, you wake up in the morning, I was like, oh shit, what did I do? And then, like, the whole camp got involved because they picked me up, and then it was just a narc situation.
Oh shit,
I
that's
fucked up. It's one of the things I feel worst about in my life.
that's kind of funny, dude.
Right? I'm like, oh man, I was such a narc.
Because you tell me this story, and in my head, I have a picture of a movie of that. You know what I mean? Like that's a
Yeah.
movie thing, you know? Like, yo, mom, they're doing drugs over here. Come get me, dude. I don't know what to do.
I don't know what to do. They're all drugged up.
And you're over here, got these girls over here making out with these other dudes, and
yeah, I just can't take. I'm just not cool enough to deal with jazz camp.
I just think jazz can't be like that, man. Holy shit! Now, if you went to the punk rock camp, I totally understand that one.
Yeah. Jazz camp. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I thought you guys would be sitting around drinking, I don't know, cocoa or something, and just playing some jazz.
Hot cocoa. talking about our favorite jazz album.
Yeah, I like this jazz. Oh yeah, you get that jazz voice. Hello, welcome to Jazz 102.
Oh my god, I can't believe I told that story.
I love it, dude. That's funny.
The big burden lifted off my shoulders. I've let that story go now.
Now you're like this, like, yes, I'm free.
I'm free.
Woo, that's awesome, man. So what other camps you go to? What other music camps you went to?
So I went to this. There was kind of this, like, I would call it a low budget camp in like Avon, Connecticut. It was like a day camp. So, your parents drop you off, pick you up at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And it was probably the most important week of my life because it changed the trajectory of like my life. So it was the Paul Howard Rock Camp in Avon, Connecticut. I think he still does it. So if anyone's listening in Connecticut, you got some kids, you want to change their life, send them to the Paul Howard Rock Camp in Avon, Connecticut.
How do you change your life?
So I met the two guys who I ended up, being in a band. We started the McLovins after that camp. So I met this kid.
Wait, hold on. What was the name of the band?
McLovins.
Did you get that from the movie?
Yeah, well, we got named. So I'll get to it. It's
okay. I'm curious now.
this is a pretty wild story. So I met the two guys at the Paul Howard Rock Camp. I mean, we're playing like Allman Brothers. We're playing, Jimi Hendrix. We're playing a bunch of like classic rock stuff.
More your speed, right?
Yeah, I was like, this is clicking. This is feeling right.
This is not jazz.
This was not jazz. I was smoking. I was smoking weed at this point too. So like, I am now not a narc. I feel like I should say that in the story. In the story, I'm cool now. I'm cool.
Did you hear the walls talking to you when you did?
I never had the walls talking to me. I feel kind of gypped. I always assumed that when I first smoked weed, I was like, oh shit, here we go. The walls are gonna start talking to me. and I never got the weed that made the walls talk to me.
Oh shit, man! Damn it!
I got let down.
Fuck, man! Damn. All right, well, finish your story. All right.
Okay. So I met Jeffrey and Jason at this camp, and we just really clicked. I mean, it was like really weird because they both were. It felt like we were all at the same level. A lot of the time you go to a camp and like I'd spent so like music was the only thing I did. So obsessed over it. So I was at this like level where not a lot of kids my age were at that. And so I went to this camp and then boom, there's a guitar player who can shred so hard. And then boom, there's a bass player who we just locked in. And when you're a bass player and a drummer, what you're looking for is the connection because you're holding down the house, like you're like the basement and the structure of the house. And we just locked right in together. So we started, I invited him over to my house and we started playing music, started covering some music. We did like Red Hot Chili Peppers Under the Bridge. We played like Afro Blue stuff. We played some of the Jimi Hendrix stuff. We played Jessica by the Allman Brothers. We're jamming around. And then Jeff had this idea. I'd never heard of the band before, but Jeff told us about this song called "You Enjoy Myself" by Fish.
By
And
Fish?
by Fish, yeah. And I had no idea who Fish was. Jason had no idea who Fish was, but he showed us this tune. I mean, this tune is like 8.5 minutes long. It's fucking crazy. It's like longest song I ever heard in my life.
No, there's a lot more than longer than that one.
And so we covered "You Enjoy Myself," and overnight the video went viral.
Really?
Because I guess at the time Fish had announced the reunion. They'd been on hiatus, since Trey was he had to go get sober, and then they came back, and then they went on hiatus, and then just the timing, like they announced their reunion, and we posted this video, and I woke up the next day to like 10,000 emails.
Holy shit.
Back then, YouTube would email you every time there was a comment on a video. And then
Yeah.
in between these comment emails, I was getting messages from promoters and from different agents and booking agents and stuff trying to book us at shows around the country, really.
Damn.
And quickly after that, and every single comment on the video was, "Oh shit, McLovin on guitar. Oh shit, McLovin's on bass," because I guess Jeff and Jason looked like McLovin. And if you look at the original video that it's still up on the internet, Jason and Jeff look a lot like McLovin from Superbad.
No way.
So the internet just named us that. They just were like, "Oh, boop, you're the McLovins now. Here you go."
All right, I gotta search for that video after we get done with this. I gotta see this.
Yeah, dude, it's so hilarious to see 14-year-old me fucking jamming out. I had like a bowl. I looked like Coconut Head from like Nancy Classified. I was like,
You had a bowl cut and everything.
I had the bowl cut for sure. We had 2 McLovins and 1 bowl cut. It was like not the slickest looking band.
So did y'all get booked or anything like that? Did y'all like end up? So how old were you guys with this? Like what, 14, 15?
We were all 14 at the time. I think Jeff was 13.
Oh wow, that's pretty rad. I mean, to get noticed like that, go viral at 13, and these bands, these promoters want you to play for them.
Yeah, dude. And so pretty much every weekend from that, so I was I was a freshman or sophomore in high school, and pretty much every weekend from there on, we were playing gigs across New England. We'd play like a bunch of music festivals, play like Mountain Jam. We opened up for Buddy Guy. We had this like crazy trajectory of like literally nothing. Because I guess back in 2008, like when you went viral, like it kind of meant more. It was a little bit more special than it is now. Like, you can kind of go viral on TikTok all the time. But
yeah,
back then those videos, like if you got something, like you'd actually get like, monetary success and like real life changes in your day to day. And so my high school like experience was just kind of like it was very different from most kids because like I was in bars and clubs and theaters and at festivals. Like once the spring hit, we were at festivals. We were just hitting the circuit. We were in the jam scene. I was seeing Fish shows and stuff like that. All my friends were like in college and like kind of older because that's who's coming to my shows. So that's who I was hanging out with.
Mm-hmm.
And it really just changed their life. So eventually Jeff left the group when he graduated high school. He left, and we replaced him with 2 other musicians. And from then we just started touring the country. So we took a little bit to write some, and at this point we had like 6 albums out with.
Wow. And and I want people to know you were like 14 when this all happened.
Yeah. So by the time 14 to 18, we had released 4 albums.
Holy shit, dude.
We probably played about like, 300 shows.
Damn. I mean, you guys were like rock stars in high school, dude.
It was, yeah. What was weird too is that we were writing music that like high school kids didn't like, at least our friends in Connecticut, it was not cool.
Really?
Like, nobody thought it was cool. But we'd like then go to bars and clubs and stuff like that, and everybody was like, it'd be like kind of like these like jam fans, like all these like kind of older people like Dave Matthews and stuff like that. It's like a little bit older than the high school, but it was just super weird. So like in high school I never got that like Like, I never thought it was cool. I just was like, oh, but like, I just love that I get to play music, and like I have fans, but like in high school, I'm just still a loser, Like,
But
dude,
really, you're not. You know what I mean? You're very successful. You know?
yeah, man, it was super wild. And I've been talking, I've been reconnecting with more people, from my high school. I could play golf with them and I hang out. And I think I had like a warped perception of it because, I was still growing up, and it was, I think, is a weird thing to go through. Like, it's just, you can't prepare for something like that.
Yeah. I mean, to go viral at 14 and go tour and make drop 6 albums by the time you're 18 and and like doing festivals and doing all this stuff. I mean, what'd your parents think about this? What'd your mom and dad do? Were they stoked? Or they were like,
They were
okay,
stoked. They loved it because
really?
well, you know why? Because like it goes back to that first time when I went downstairs and I told my mom I wanted to play drums. Like, they always, like, my parents always knew that that's what I wanted to do. So actually having success with it was, they were just so happy that like I had found, like, I got like a calling, I found my passion for it, and then I was able to just kind of like have this path to like slip into.
Mhm.
And it just kind of worked out. So I think they were just pretty excited that, and they really liked the, I mean, they were at like all the shows and stuff, they helped out.
Really? So they drove you guys and it's like, all right, guys, jump in the van. We're going to the next festival.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of them, we couldn't actually get into the rooms unless they were there, because we're so young and we're playing at like friggin' bars and clubs and stuff. So like we had to be like, we'd walk in and they would put X's like up our arm in permanent marker so that they would be like, you're not drinking tonight, kid.
So you didn't get hooked up by no cougars or anything at 14, huh?
We had a lot of cougars circling, but once the parents left, it was really in the post 18 McLovin's phase, when the parents stopped coming. That's when the cougars, they all came out.
They're like,
They,
oh,
they were waiting.
gone.
They're like stalking in the bushes. They're just like, oh, it's almost time.
They're almost 18.
You're almost there.
Dude, that's so rad, dude. Like, dude, your story's amazing, dude. Like, seriously. And
Thank
like, just to have your parents support you 100% and go on tour with you and drive you around and do that. I mean, that's probably the best experience they ever had in their lives. I mean, other than having you and getting married and meeting each other, but I mean, just to experience that themselves. I mean, to know that their son is like a rock star, and they probably didn't expect that you're going to be a rock star at this age. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, yeah. It must
just just to have that, dude, that's amazing, dude. That's the best story ever.
yeah. It's pretty wild to like, look back on it. It's like, all right, yeah, that's the life. That's my life.
Yeah. So you've been a rock star since you've been like what, 13 years old, 12. Oh, actually 12 years old. You know,
Yeah,
if you wouldn't have called your think about it, if you wouldn't have called your mom at jazz band or jazz camp,
yeah.
you wouldn't be where you're at now.
I guess you're right. I never kind of thought of it that way. Yeah,
Because
that was kind of like the beginning. That was like, oh shit.
because you'd be like this. Hi, this is Jake Huffman from Jazz 101. We're gonna play this on Willie Dean on jazz. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd be all
You were doing that guy.
yeah, I'd be the smooth talking jazz cat.
Here we go. I'm gonna play some drums. Ba, 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 ba. You know,
Second,
like,
second.
yeah, exactly. So, what's up, girl?
What's up, girl?
But I'm on a good one today. I don't know. I think it might be this kombucha I'm drinking, but there's no alcohol in it. I don't know what it is. Better booch, yeah.
It's a kombucha for sure.
Yeah, it's a better booch, but it's called Morning Glory with peach and black tea.
Oh, damn.
It's actually pretty good, but
That does sound pretty
they're
good.
not sponsors. So I'm not trying to get advertisement on this one.
Maybe they'll hear this though.
Maybe they will, and they'll send you some better booch. I'll
They
say,
get
hey,
some better
Nick,
booch.
he needs it.
Let's get him all booched up.
Exactly.
He's not a narc anymore. We promise.
He's not a narc, so you put some alcohol in it and send some weed too.
Yes, that's some weed too. That wall talking weed.
Well, that's rad, dude. Like, I mean, that's amazing. Like I said before, that's an amazing story to have that, and experience that now or then, and now you left the band and now you're solo, correct?
Yeah, so the band took like another form, and we became kind of more like an alt rock thing. And between when I was like 18 to to about 25, we just hit the road. I mean, we bought a van and we were just on the road probably, you know, like it ended up on heavy years, it was probably like over 200 dates a year.
Mm-hmm.
So like we were like living in the van type of vibe, you know, classic dirty van band guys, and just, you know, rolling town to town, playing shows every night, and like living in the studio and really trying to do it. And then, you know, we all just got burnt out from it, and the band kind of stopped. And then I just kind of took a beat to kind of pivot to figure out what the sound's going to be like. What do I really want to do next? Like, I'm not giving up music, but I got to figure out what's the next stage. Like, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm. That's pretty rad. I mean, how you liking the solo gig?
Oh, I love it, dude. It's tough to be in a band. So really, what it kind of looks like now, because, you know, I have my solo project, but really what I am is like I'm a producer, and I've me and a few amazing musicians around here, we've made this sort of like collective and this little ecosystem. So I produce music for, you know, about 5 people around this area, and we all share, we're all in each other's group, like we're all in each other's bands.
Mm-hmm.
So what that does is now, like, we all are, our live shows are all sick because really we play with each other so much. Like, we practice all the time. Like, if Blake's playing, like, you know, we're all playing Blake's music. If it's one of my shows, we're all playing my music. If it's Jeremy or Brother Beauty, like, we're all doing that. And because we're kind of like pulling from the same group of people, we all interact really well, and it's really healthy. One of the hardest things about being in a band is that it is a business. And so when you tell someone you don't like their idea, or you kind of, I don't know, it's really easy to step on someone's toes and for them to get really offended, because it's easy to take it like, oh, you don't like my idea, you don't like me. And then
They get
pair that,
butthurt. They basically get butthurt.
yeah, you're getting butthurt, and like you're like traveling all the time. The only, like, when you're on tour, dude, like the only time you're alone is when you're like taking a shit, you know. And then otherwise,
True.
just a buddy.
You said
So
taking a shit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I want to make sure that's what I heard. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. That's like the only time you're alone, man. And, you know, so what we've figured out now is like we've drawn the lines around whose project is what and how it works for each project, and nobody feels butthurt anymore because they have their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I can be like, this song has to be this way, like this is how it's going to run, and you have to take a little bit more control. And like, collaboration still works, but the collaboration is a little healthier because you have these like really clear lines of like where you should be stepping and like what your role is. And it's honestly been one of the most rewarding and coolest like musical endeavors I've been a part of. And it feels really like professional, and we all feel really good about our music and each other's music, and our relationship is just great, which is huge when it comes to a band.
And so you guys are still doing the McLovin or whatever still, correct? Is that what
So
you're saying?
McLovin's ended in 2017, we'll say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this is new. This is like new projects and other people's work and stuff that I produce. And that's including my solo stuff, like the Jake Huffman stuff.
Okay. And then so I'm gonna go back a little bit.
Yeah.
So when you guys first played at your first gig with McLovin, were you guys nervous?
Oh yeah. Well, okay.
Take me
So the
back that
first,
day. Take me back that day.
so the first gig we played in McLovin's was at this venue called Flatbread. It was just like this pizza restaurant.
A family restaurant, right?
Yeah, it was like a family pizza restaurant. And, you know, we set up our stuff, we get on stage, and honestly, at first we're not really that nervous because it's you know, it's just like a family pizza restaurant. But then all of a sudden, all these like people, like all these internet people start showing up to the pizza restaurant, and it kind of like got a little, I don't think the restaurant was like ready for it to get out of hand like that.
Like how many
And
people?
I mean, like, so the tables, you know, you're probably talking, it's like, it was like a full restaurant. So the tables had like, you know, 40 people there, but then we got like the standing people. We're talking maybe like 60 people just rolled up,
Holy
just
shit.
straight from the internet right into flatbread pizza. And then they're standing in between all the tables, you know, because they're like at a show. So it was like this like hilarious thing. So like they're like jam band dancing around because we're like, it was, and we were just like, we just couldn't believe it. We're just like, oh my God, people are like listening to us right now. At that time, we only had like 3 original songs, and we're just like covering Fish, and we're covering, you know, Allman Brothers and Grateful Dead and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But it was, yeah, it was super wild.
Did you get like did you get like nervous, sweating, stuff like that?
Once I start playing, everything kind of goes away because like, I mean, playing drums and singing, because so I'm a singing drummer too. I probably should have said that from the top,
Okay.
but I can do. I tell people like I'm so good at drums that if I had a stroke, playing drums is probably the only thing I could still do. You
Wow.
know, like
Awesome.
I'm just, it's just so ingrained in the fabric of like who I am,
Mhm.
because I just started from such a young age. So if I have drumsticks and a drum set in front of me, like I'm really not nervous. I get nervous like lyrically if I'm like, if I'm singing like a new song and it's like kind of vulnerable or something like that. Like I get nervous. I'm like looking at the audience and being like, is this lame? Like these people get what I'm saying here, or like what are these thinking? I get nervous like that, and I used to a lot because I wasn't the best singer when I first started, so I was always nervous about that.
Mhm.
But now when it came to drums, that was always the easy one, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that was all natural for you. I mean, that's what got you where you're at now in life, was the drums.
Yeah. Yeah. That was my, you know, that's my weapon of choice. You know, I could use that anytime, you know?
That's like you're like a superhero with those drums, like ba 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 ba.
Yeah. Yeah. It does feel like that, especially, you know, and like, that's why like everybody always looks at, you know, we see a singing drummer, you're like, oh my God, how can you do that? And I'm just like, well, I can't do much else, but I can do this. You know?
Well, I can't fix your car, but I can play a badass drum set for you, man.
Yeah. I need a lot of help in other aspects of my life, but I'm really good at this.
Oh, you got a drum set? No problem at all. I can play that for you, no problem at all.
Oh, you got a drum set? Why didn't you say so?
Oh, I'll drum while you fix your car real quick. So tell me about Jake Huffman. So what is this solo thing about?
So I really just kind of like, you know, I'm like sitting here telling you stories and just being honest. Like the music is just about that. Like I really do have this wild journey up to this point, and I spent a lot of, you know, when I was on the road, when I was heavy on tour, I really wasn't that healthy. Like, you know, I was drinking a lot. I was doing drugs. I was experiencing, you know, like the cliche rock star thing. It's kind of what I felt like I was supposed to do.
Mhm.
And, you know, I have extreme highs in my life and extreme lows in my life. And what I, what I wanted to do is part of the reason why I went back to school for production is I always heard stuff in my head that I wasn't able to like create.
Mhm.
And so I went back and I kind of learned the tools, and I found the tools that I needed to figure out this sound. And really what all I'm trying to do is just what I usually do when I'm writing is I think about a specific moment, a specific feeling, a specific emotion, and I just try to create that little moment and kind of share that. And my natural kind of sound is it is just kind of, it sounds a little bit like pop, it's a little bit like rock, a little pop. It's just kind of, I call it's kind of like tangible music. It's like it's music that a lot of people could probably like put on and listen to and not be super offended by it. But it comes across a little cinematic. And I just think I'm just trying to be honest with it. Like I'm writing music that I like to listen to,
Mhm.
and if and that's kind of the whole purpose for me. It's like I want to listen to it. I'm proud of it. And if other people hear it and understand what I'm saying, that's really just the best. You know, it's just the best feeling when that happens.
Dude, that's right, dude. That's amazing. you know, to do that, you know what I mean? Like to leave, not leave, but like I'm trying to see what think of what get my words together, but basically leaving the band life, not really leaving the band life, but just kind of like
Yeah.
putting that to the side to do you. And
Yeah.
and I think it took you a while, you know, to figure out who you are, you know, and now you realize like, hey, this is who am, and this is what I want to do for my life, for the rest of my life is do my own solo stuff, do me, help out other people. I'm gonna go back to school and pick up some extra things and this and that to help me out to be successful. That's what I got from what you were telling me.
Yeah, I mean that's literally exactly right. You know, I think I spent so much time trying to pretend to be something, and then all I needed to do was just embrace who I was and just kind of like just do that. Like it's just like when I was describing, you know, like the vocoder thing. Like I love geeking out about stuff like that, and so I just let myself do it now. It's like what do I have to lose? Just being me, you know. It's who I am. Might as well do it. Might as well embrace it.
Well, 100% agree. I mean, you know, because you got to think about it. Like you know, we're gonna go. You know, I'm gonna go back a little bit, but you know, when you're from, I'm gonna say from 13 to 18, you guys were, you know, you got put on the stage as a rock star. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so you guys had to perform to be something that you guys aren't. You know, you had to be something else and
Yeah.
to keep the record sold, keep the people come seeing you guys, this and that. And, you know, and it caught up to you where you're just like what you just said, you know, you're like, you know, being a rock star, basically partying, you know, I mean, girls showing titties left and right, whatever. I don't know if they did that, but you know, usually it
Left hit
happens.
and right hit.
But you know, I don't know what happens, you know, but we do, but you know what I mean? But I mean, you know, you live that rock star life and now you're kind of like, wow, dude, I need to step back a little bit and do me. I need to show the rest of the world who I am, who Jake Huffman is, you know. And if they don't like it, fuck them, you know.
Yeah. Then it's not for them, and that's cool.
Exactly, exactly. And you came out with a single called "Babe." Tell me about this.
Yeah. So babe, that's so I just dropped the EP, which is called Younger, a couple weeks ago. But yeah, honestly, I think Babe's one of my favorite tracks on there. And it's just honestly that was just kind of fun. It's just like a sexy track. It's kind of creepy. Like it has this. I was playing around in the studio. There's actually like four different drum sets on there. Like you wouldn't know it, like unless I told you that, you probably wouldn't notice. But like we just did a bunch of like weird things with the production, and you know the song's just about, you know, just wanting something, just really wanting something, and then, you know, trying to go for it.
Hmm.
That's kind of the best way I can describe it. And you know, it could be sexual, it could be like just out of anything, but we all have like this like urge to, like, you know, like you just want to fucking reach out and grab that shit.
Yeah.
And you know what we try to do is like match the energy of, you know, match that energy with like this like kind of darker underside, because that's always fun. Like I love when stuff, like especially playing it live, you know, like we have this like slap bass sound, but we just like threw it through, like sounds like a garbage disposal. It's just like kind of crunch it up a little bit and just really trash all the sound a little bit.
Damn, that's pretty. I mean, it's a dope song. I mean, I definitely, you know, I listened to it when your PR sent it over to me, and I was like, okay, I like this, dude. That's what made me want to do your interview. You know, do an interview with you because I liked the style of it. You know what I mean? It was like you said, it was very grungy. It was very diff-
Yeah.
different. You know, and so do you when you wrote this song, Babe? Were you basically writing about yourself or experiences of your life?
Yeah, you know, again, you know, I was like thinking back on like those like nice edge moments that I had, you know, in the back. And that one I really did try to just keep it like, I didn't want to. That was one of those songs where honestly, like I had the music and I was like, all right, what am I putting over this music? And I just took a microphone and I just started like just singing over it. And I was like, please, babe, and I just like started saying words. And then I'd listen back to like the gibberish I was saying. And I was like, what is that word sound like? What am I trying to say here? And then I kind of just like pulled out, like I was like, oh shit, like I actually am saying something. And then I just kind of pulled it out. I was like, all right, I guess that's what I said. You know, that's what it was.
Dude, that's rad, dude. And you said you just dropped the EP like a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, yeah. So the first track on there, Martyr, I think that's, if I was gonna tell someone like the first episode to watch of like Jake Huffman to understand it, I think Martyr is the one that encompasses everything.
Okay.
Uh, so that one just feels like the most out of any song I've ever written ever. And I even the new shit that I'm writing too. I just think that one's probably the one that is the most well-rounded an articulated version of like what I've been trying to do.
Mhm.
Uh,
So basically this EP is about a little bit about your life, right? Or your
yeah,
experience.
yeah. It's called. I mean, there's the second track called "Vampires and Hippie Clothes," which
I
is
like
like
that one. I like that one. That one was pretty funny.
yeah. That was like, I mean, like that's essentially about like like when you're backstage at a festival, getting fucked up and everyone wants a piece of you, and you can't
Yeah.
trust.
That's right. And then, what's cool too is that you also been on stage with like Blink-182, Flaming Lips. What was that like? I mean, just to be on stage with those guys.
the a lot of those, it was like we shared like the same stage at like a music festival. Honestly, the Flaming Lips was a wild one because I met Wayne Coyne backstage because we were playing the same festival. We were playing a side stage, but they let us go back on the main stage. And I met Wayne Coyne, and it was at the I was like 16, and he just like came right up to me. He's like, "Hey, dude, how's it going?" And we just had this great conversation. And it was at the time when McDonald's put a hold on our trademark logo because it
Are
had
you
a Mick.
serious?
Yeah, because I guess because they I think they put a hold on everything that has Mick in it, like to just take a look at it, see if, and we're like, well, no one's buying burgers at our shows, man, so it's all good.
Yeah, nobody's gonna be McLovin burgers. I
Yeah,
mean,
like it's good, it's fine. But I actually I brought that up with him, and he had like these like he's like so like Wayne Coyne's he's so friggin' smart, man. But he just had this really rational conversation, and he's kind of the one, he was just like, well, it's probably not menacing that they're doing that. They're just a huge corporation. He's like, just stick to like, think about the music and don't worry about that stuff. And like, and he gave me just some good tips. And then at the end of it, he was like, hey, like, do you guys want to like go on stage with us? And we were like, yeah. And so uh, it was at the time when he was working on that children's television show, Yo Gabba Gabba.
yeah, I remember that.
And so they had all these like orange jumpsuits, and he like dressed us all up in these orange jumpsuits and then brought us on stage, and we're like jumping around with the Flaming Lips in these like bright orange jumpsuits. It was it still doesn't really feel like that one is real. It
You
was
got photo?
so weird.
You got photo of that? Of you guys doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I did a throwback the other day on my Instagram where I posted a picture. Someone somewhere has a video of us dancing on stage with them doing it, but we were up there like not just one song, the entire set. He had us up there dancing.
Dude, that's fucking rad to be on, basically be on a set with, you weren't jamming, but you're on set doing something with the Flaming Lips.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy to watch. But yeah, I mean, we just been so lucky to like kind of be in the same place and meet so many awesome artists, and the festival thing was so cool. Like that's really one of the best places to be a musician, because that's where you really meet everybody else, and everybody is usually super cool, and like everybody just wants to hang and have a good time.
Yeah. And then you guys did something with Sesame Street, or somebody worked with you on Sesame Street or something like that?
So when I was 19, I got a gig. I dropped out of college, but then pretty soon after, I got a gig as a composer and a lyricist for Sesame Street, and I worked there for about 7 years.
What was that like, dude?
It was sick. I mean, like it was a great gig. Well, it really helped me learn how to write music well, because when you're writing for Sesame Street, the attention span is so small of a young kid that like, I mean, my shortest song I ever wrote for Sesame Street was 6 seconds long.
Really?
And that was like, I kept writing the song. They're like, oh, we got to cut it down. Oh, we got to cut it down. It's still too long. And then all of a sudden it was just like essentially like two lines. And they're like, that's perfect. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, you got to get to the point. That's what they're saying. They kept being like, you got to get to the point. Like, this isn't Lord of the Rings. This is Sesame Street, like.
So did you get to hang out with Oscar and Big Bird and all them?
Yeah, dude, I met them all. Remember the mannequin challenge?
Yeah.
I was in the Sesame Street mannequin challenge.
No way.
Yeah, and then I met a bunch of like, I met all the Muppets. The only time I've ever been starstruck is when I met Elmo. I felt like my body shut down a little bit. I met Elmo. I couldn't talk. I turned beet red, and Leon Bridges is standing right next to me, and he's like playing it cool, and I see Elmo. I just met Leon Bridges. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I love your music. What's up? And then Elmo came by, and I was like, oh my god, Elmo! Hold me, Leon.
Like, oh, whatever, Leon. Oh, fuck, Elmo. What's up, dude?
Oh my god.
Yo, what's up? That's rad, dude. I mean, you had a good life, man. You didn't. I mean, you still have a good life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in your past, it seems like you've done so much what you've done. You know.
Yeah, I'm really lucky to just have had this all happen and to still be doing. I'm just so happy that I'm 30 years old now and I'm still a musician.
So you got a lot of history, man. You know, a lot of history to talk about. That's
Yeah.
really awesome. And before we take off, a couple of things. What do you have planned for 2023?
So I'm back in the studio 2 weeks from now. So the new music, it'll probably come out maybe around next year. I mean, something will happen. I got gigs in New York City coming up. I have one gig in July in New York City. I'm doing a showcase, Berlin Under A in the East Village, and then in November I'm going to be back at Mercury Lounge for a really big show there. And then there'll be some more tour, some more tour stuff happening. I'm really we've been in talks with a few different things. I've actually been in, we have I have some cool things happening with like different indie films and stuff that I might be composing or working with. So it's just the music's it's all moving. It's like all these moving pieces all the time. Oh, and I guess the cool thing is that this past EP, a lot of the music, it's being spun on top 40 radio and AAA radio around the country.
What? Congratulations.
Yeah, so it's honestly like it's pretty surreal that that's happening, and I don't have a label or anything. I'm all independent, so
No, stay independent.
yeah,
Stay independent, man. You know,
yeah,
you don't need to sign on a big label. You know,
yeah,
then if you do that, then everything just changes. You know.
yeah, yeah. And I already had my life pretty wild. I like being able to control it. It's kind of nice.
Hey, you controlled it pretty well from age 12 to now, man.
Yeah.
And where can people find you at? Do you have a website, social media? Where can they find your music, merch, whatever they want to do to check you out?
So jakehuffmanmusic.com if you want to go there, find some music. There's probably links to everything there. On most social media stuff, I'm your friend Jake.
Okay.
You look up Jake Huffman or your friend Jake. I mean, I'll come up. I'll be the first one, and then check me out on Spotify. It's if you want to buy the music on Apple and stuff like that, wherever you listen to music, I'm up there. And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, if you follow me on Instagram, I do just kind of post like random video content stuff of like what I'm geeking out on. And right now it's vocoder stuff. So it's, if you're into that, then, you can go check that out.
Definitely, man. You hear that, guys? Go check out my boy Jake over here, man.
Yeah.
He might do some crazy stuff on there. You never know, but check him out.
Oh yeah, check out my OnlyFans.
Yeah, check out his OnlyFans. OnlyFans at
yeah, a lot of feet pics on that OnlyFans.
Oh, dude, yeah, that OnlyFans person I interviewed. Oh my gosh, it was funny.
I gotta check that episode out though.
Yeah. What was it? It was episode 56. Rachel Alexandra.
Ooh.
Yeah. It was a good one. I will tell you that. Well, Jake, what can you say to the upcoming musician, someone that wants to do what you're doing or be where you're at in life? What's a good advice that you can give them?
My best advice is it's kind of I'll just tell them like what I'm living right now. Like I just think that if you make music that you actually want to listen to, like don't write shit that you think. A lot of artists when they start writing, they say like, oh, I can't do that, or like, oh, that sounds cool, but that I can't do that doesn't sound like me. And I can't reiterate enough that if you make it, it sounds like you. So just do shit that you want to do. And honestly, like the more honest you are, the better your music is. It's going to be well received. People are going to dig it if you dig it.
Hell yeah, that's 100% true. Do you? You know, don't do
Yeah.
something don't do what other people are doing. Don't be in the big lake. You want to stay in the small pond.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, Jake. That's definitely true, man. And hey, I enjoyed this conversation with you. I mean, you have great stories, and and I want to say thank you so much for coming on, and and I wish you the best of luck and whatever you do, and need any help promoting anything, TSM Media, we definitely got your back on that.
Oh, dude, thank you so much, Tommie. This is awesome, man. You're easy to talk to, man.
You know what it is? It's no videos. That's great.
Yeah, it's no video. Who knows what I've been doing over here?
Hey, you don't know what I've been doing over here. Nah, I got like 5. I got 10 cans of beer. I got a fat joint right here. Looking at my fish. Hey,
been slamming this vodka down over here. No one would ever known.
No one will ever know. Now they know, but they'll never know. Well, Jake, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. And hey, keep on fucking killing it out there, man. Keep on doing you, man. And I'm proud of you, bro.
Oh, dude, thank you, Tommie. And I'll have to come out and come hang out with you sometime. We'll go to your bar.
Yeah, you'll love open bar. Trust me on that, man. All right, homie. Well, take care and good luck on tour.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Thanks, bud.
All right.